Good morning, class. Okay, let's wait for about 5 minutes for the rest to join us before I start the lesson. Okay, hope you guys enjoy your doodling session. I will start in a short while, so maybe just get ready your slides and everything. And I will start about 5 minutes time. If you have any question to a previous session, you can just type in the chat box so that I'll be able to answer you. Okay, good. If there's no more question that you have to ask from previous lecture, I'm going to start the lesson proper for today. So today we are basically going into chapter 4, and this is in our topic 3. So just to clarify, your quiz test will be from the first 2 lecture plus this lecture. It is topic 1, 2, 3, but it's chapter, if you are going to study from a textbook, it's actually chapter 1, 2, and 4. Okay? So basically, today we are going to touch on the foundation of decision making. And this will be the learning outcome that we'll be touching on today. So we're going to describe the decision making process. Okay, this is important, so just mark it down. And we're going to explain the 3 approaches which managers can use to make decisions. We're going to also discuss on the types of decision and decision making that managers will face. We are also going to discuss on the group decision making as well as some contempt issue in manager decision making. Usually for all the lectures, right, we will discuss on certain issues in today's context. So that will help you to further enhance what you know in the environmental issue as of today. Okay, so let's start. Decision making. Okay, when we talk about decision making, right, usually for this text that we are using, right, we are basically using this 8-step process. Okay, so in the meantime, just give you a few seconds to actually look at all these 8 boxes. I'm going to talk about each of these boxes in greater details in a short while. But before I start, okay, usually at the first step, you are always going to identify a problem. Okay, and at the end of the day, you are always supposed to implement the alternative. This evaluation will serve as a okay, Sing, you can't hear me. Can the rest hear me? Can the rest hear me other than Sing? Okay, great. In that case, right, Sing, please check your speaker because the rest can hear me. Give me a second, I'll just type in the chat box. I suppose he can't hear, so I have to type. Okay, let's continue. So when you do decision making, for this per se, we'll be using this 8 process. Okay, but please take note that if you are looking at decision making from other textbook, there might be processes that has only 5 steps or 7 steps or even 6 steps. So please do not um, do not assume that the rest of the process is wrong. It's just that for this module, you are using this 8-step process. And if you see this question coming up during your exam, please use the 8-step process instead of the process that you use for other theories. Okay? Now, I'm going to talk about all these steps in greater details. So, let's take a look at the first one. Identification of problem. So, usually what is a problem? A problem is usually a discrepancy between what is existing and the thing that is like something goes wrong, something that needs you to rectify, and things which is not in the desired state. Okay, now, what does it mean by desired state? Meaning where you want to be. Okay, meaning, or another word is the ideal situation. Okay, So when there is a problem, you will need to bridge this part. So take for example, if let's say, okay, let's not just use this any example. We use this example that is in the next few slides. So one of the problem that we can talk about is when your car breaks down. Okay, your car has a blown engine, and you realize that it is not economical if you fix the car. So take this as an example of identifying a problem, okay, for now. So what do you do? The next step is basically to identify your decision criteria. Okay, so what is your decision criteria? When you are buying a car, right, usually there are a few factors that you'll look into, like things like price, like model, size, manufacturer, options, and repair record. And the second step of this, right, is basically you identify the criteria that will be, the keyword is important to solve the problem. Okay, so maybe for this issue whereby your car breaks down and it is beyond repair, the important to solve the problem, or the factors that can allow you to solve the problem, will be these few, like price, model, size, manufacturer, options, and repair records. Okay, so when you do your identification of decision criteria, you will ask yourself if price is something which you matters to you, or if the model matters to you. So this might just be some of the criteria. It can be more. It can be more. So you will just jot down and write whichever you feel that it is a relevant factor when you make a decision. So remember, this is basically decision criteria. Okay, criteria that will help solve the problem. Okay, so might be every individual, right, will have a different sets of relevant factors. So it depends on individual as well. The next step that you are going to do is to weigh the criteria. So before this, right, you set the criteria, okay, the decision criteria, like in your own opinion, which of these factors are important to you. The next, you will weigh them, meaning you will ask yourself, of all these criteria that you have chosen to be relevant to solve the problem, of these, this is the second step, of these, which of the factors is the highest in priority? Okay, until this part, can understand what I'm trying to say? Meaning you give, okay, great. Meaning you give a rating to which one feels that should weigh the highest. Okay, so let's say price. Okay, Isaiah want me to go back to the previous slide. Okay, no problem. Okay, the previous slide is this identifying decision criteria. Okay, maybe just let me repeat again. So the first step is basically identifying the decision problem. So example, we are using the example as your car has broken down. Okay, your car broke down and you realize that it's beyond repair, or it does not make sense for you to repair because it's too expensive, and anyway the repair cost will not be something feasible, and the car is also too old, so you have decided to get a new car. Therefore, you identify certain criteria for you to make decision And this criteria is actually a criteria that will allow you to solve the problem. Meaning, all these will be part of something you should think of before you purchase the car. All these factors are factors that will help you gauge which car to get. Okay, I'll pause here for a while and let me know if you have any question. Okay, this decision making process, I'll go a bit slower. So at any point, if you don't understand, I will go through again. Okay, so Isaiah, if I have answered your question, let's move on to the next. So after you have this identify those criteria that will help you to solve your issue, the next will be you will weigh the criteria. Okay, so remember the second slide, we write the criteria here. But on this slide, we will try to give a rating, meaning we will give a weight to each of the criteria. This will determine which of the factors is the most important. So in this case, right, price is the most important because it weighs at the point of 10. Handling will be something which probably this buyer finds that is not really an issue. Maybe because all cars, somehow or other, the person has tried and maneuvered before, so the handling is not something that is of a concern. Okay? So this is weighting criteria. So it actually links this. First, you identify those criteria that can help you to solve your problem. Then you give a weighting to those factors so that you know that which of it you will prioritize. Like example, even okay, just give an example. When you are looking for a school, okay, when you're looking for a school to study before or a school that can study a diploma. Okay, example. So of course, you will also identify the decision criteria, such as how can solve your finding school criteria. Is it price? Is it location? Is it the modules? Is it the subject that you'll be studying? All these are considered as decision criteria. Okay. After which you will put a weighting, like when same example, like if you are looking for, I mean before you join PSB, of course, like think like which of it is the most important. Some people might put location as the most important criteria. Okay, so you might give the weighting for location as 10 and price as 8, or some people might put most important as the module or the subject they are doing as 10 and such. Okay, so this is basically talking about weighting criteria. So this part is when you will prioritize which is more important and which is least important. Next, for this matter, right, the example we are using is cars. So for this buyer, he or she will start to write down all the alternative cars that she can buy. Okay. Anyway, for this, right, I personally feel that is too much. All right. Usually, our advice when developing alternative to have just or a scope of just maybe 5, okay, or 6, the max. All right. It's the same as when just now the extra example, the second example that I was giving, that I gave in terms of finding a school. Usually, you will also give yourself alternative, maybe 3 or 4 institutions it won't be like writing such a long list because it will be too many for you to actually deep dive and drive in. Okay, so in this case, right, of course, as this is an example, so therefore we are using more alternative to demonstrate the explanation. Okay, okay, this part, any question? Any question? Okay, good. Okay, now the next one is we will start to analyze alternative. Okay, analyze alternative will talk about, you will list down all the cars. Okay, and then you will write down in terms of the weighting. Can see? Let's say the initial price, Ford Focus. Okay, the interior comfort, the initial, and you have 37. This is just analyzing alternative. Don't worry if you are a bit confused here, because the next slide, this one will explain a bit further. Okay, so like when you look at this, right, the weighting, remember price, this buyer weigh the price as the highest. He give 10, 8 for interior comfort, 1 for handling, remember? Okay, let me just go back to the slide. Okay, if it sounds a bit confusing, don't worry. Just stop me if you need me to repeat again. Okay, weighting criteria 10, 8, 5. Okay, this slide, right, analyzing alternative is just based on the analysis by the buyer, how he view Jeep Compass. That means to him, the price is at 2. Okay, and then this is when you select the best alternative, whereby you use your own weightage to times. Okay, this is just a formula, but however, in this decision-making process or this process model, right, we do not need you to demonstrate how you do the calculation. We just need you to explain. Okay, so for this, the initial price, you will times this and equals to 20. Comfort, you times equals 80. Durability equals 40, and so on and so forth, and you have a total amount here. Okay, you do the same for the rest, and you will get a total of all these figures. Okay, at this part, can understand? Okay, I'll just give you all a bit of time. Okay, Li Xiang asked me why. Can you be more specific your question? Can you be a bit more specific your question as to, oh, okay, yes. Okay, so if you all understand this part, I'll move on to the next. Okay, so the next, after you have select the best alternative, the next part is just to put the decision to action. Okay, I have a question here. Hao Chen is asking me why I need to time and sorry, what's the word? The times the number. You mean number in front, is it? Okay, now, like I mentioned earlier, right, for this calculation is basically a tool to actually get the total, okay, in front. Okay, now, just to explain this, like I mentioned earlier, this kind of multiplication to get this number, right? After you multiply and add all this number, okay, all this number, to get this total, right? Okay, this is basically a tool that is used, okay, a tool that is used. So you don't have to worry because there are other methods of doing the calculation. But for this method per se, right, this is what we are using to calculate the total amount. But you don't need to know the calculation. You just basically need to know the 8-step process. Okay? The 8-step process. This is just an example. Later I'll demonstrate an example after I finish this part. Okay? So after you have selected the best alternative, let's look at which one is the better one that we should choose. So we look at which of these. Okay, can you tell me if based on this calculation, which car should be chosen? Okay, 224. So it should be Toyota Camry. Okay, based on the criterion and based on the weightage, it should be Toyota Camry. Alright. So when this is being selected, now the decision will be implemented. Okay? So the decision will be implemented. Can I understand this part? So, of course, this is the last part of the process. However, we have another one that we need to also put into the process, which is the evaluation decision. So the evaluation will come to ask, was the problem resolved? Okay, so I'm going to bring you back to the first slide of the decision making. So this part. We need to ask ourselves, have we resolved the problem or have we not? So if we have not resolved the problem, there are a few reasons that why it's not resolved. Maybe the problem identified is wrong, or it can also be you have identified the wrong decision criteria. You know what I'm trying to say? So the evaluation of decision effectiveness, right, can also be maybe the implementation somehow, somewhere goes wrong. Okay, so there will be this evaluation, right, at this part serve as a feedback, okay, to see if everything is correct. All right. Okay, until this part, these are the process. This is the decision making process. Any question? Any question? Okay, good. So now I'm going to just give you one more example to demonstrate this. Okay, one more example to demonstrate this. So I'll use back the decision when all of you, of course, before you join PSB, when you are deciding which school to take your diploma. Okay. So this will be identification of problem. Okay. Now, it will be this one. So the next step, when you identify decision criterion, it might be, okay, this one we're using the example as in looking for a school. It might be price. Might be cost structure. It can be school location. Can be what else can you think of? Accreditation. Okay. And what else? Okay. Okay. First, you might not know who are they, but okay, makes sense also, because nowadays every lecturer that is in the school, right, you will have a profile of who they are and what they have done. Okay, lecturers and such. So these are relevant factors. Okay. Comments from, okay, feedback. Feedback. Okay. And infrastructure and such. So this one is related to individual, how you want to look at it, and how you are going to place the factors in it. Okay. Next one, you will weigh your criterion. Just like just now, we write down feedback, location, price, cost structure, all these, right? You will give a weightage to each one of what we have discussed earlier. So you just give a weightage. After which, you will develop alternative, meaning you will have schools written here. Of course, you will have like schools like, of course, PSB, and you have MDIS, you have MIT, or etc. etc. Okay, so this one is alternatives. Okay, I'm just demonstrating a alternative. This might not be what you all have done, or the schools that you have listed during, of course, definitely PSB is one of them, that's why you are here. But I'm saying that these are just some examples. After which, you analyze the alternative. You give a rating, and then you start to analyze the alternative. How does this alternative, under price, comfort, is the rating that you gave to them? Okay. And of course, after you have done that, you will select the best alternative by mixing, not say mixing, but in time. Okay. Okay. Okay, like I say again, this is a tool which this module is using to explain. But doesn't mean that this is the only one. Okay. And finally, you implement your decision. And after which, that means now, like now, you are here studying with PSB. Okay. Finally, you will evaluate the decision. Okay. Evaluating, have your problem been solved? Yes, you are in this school and taking your diploma course. Okay. So that's it. All right. So this is basically the 8 steps of decision making process. Okay. Any question up to this part? Okay, if no question, then we'll move on to the next. Okay, but however, for this decision-making process, right, we tends to look at some common errors. Some common errors. So I just give you a few seconds to look at all this. It looks a bit complicated, but don't worry, because I'm going to explain each one of these. But you do not need to know in that. I'll just briefly explain this, because these are just some some points of views when decisions are being executed or being made. All right. Okay, take a few seconds to take a look at this. Okay, come, let's take a look at each one of them. So the first one, okay, overconfident, right? Is like sometimes certain decision maker, it might have some unrealistic views, okay, about themselves. That is why we call it a common error. Example, like when you are overconfident, sometimes to think that your or your decision is correct, but it might not be so. Okay. Immediate gratification talks about when the decision maker they want immediate reward, so they might overlook what is the cost, what is the cost that were incurred. Okay, like they maybe there is a discount given, but they have forgotten that maybe this discount might not be the best factor to actually make a decision, okay? Because maybe the discount is just to lure you to make the decision or get the product, but doesn't mean that at the end of the day you will get the result as how you want it to be. Okay. Okay, don't worry about no need to deep dwell into like in a more like understand until a deeper depth, because these are just some common errors. So these are just surface. So I'll briefly talk about them. So anchoring, right? It describes when the decision maker usually has already formed their decision making at the start of the point. Okay, and when later on when certain maybe things comes in, right, they do not have this adequate time to adjust. Okay, like maybe the first impression, so they have already anchored that effect. Selective perception biasness, right? It talks about decision having already a perceive. Like I mean example, like maybe like the example of choosing car. Probably the best car is Toyota Camry, but they already perceive something better. Maybe some cars that they like better, maybe like Honda, I don't know, or like BM or some other cars. So it already have this perception biasness. So even when the rating came out that Toyota Camry is the best car to buy, they might not feel that they should choose Toyota Camry. Okay. So usually at this point of time, right, they will have certain things that they will draw from their mind to actually decide what to buy. Okay, so confirmation, right, it deals with more on like choices that they have done in the past. So it's like sometimes they will contradict. They will use past choice to confirm whether what have they done is correct. So if the current situation is something different, but they use past experience in contradict, right? They will still fall back to what they have done in the past. Okay. Framing biasness, it actually talks about, just like, when we take a picture, we will frame out everything. We just see what is happening or the highlight of the situation, but we exclude what is outside. So in a way, okay, like example, when we take pictures, let's say we take a picture of a family outing, but we want to exclude someone from the family outing, we will just frame, okay? We will just frame maybe just the three of you and exclude the person that you don't want out of the scene. Okay, this is called framing biasness. Meaning that when you make decision, right, you will also make decision based on what you see. But what you don't want to see, you just exclude. Okay? Okay, availability is another decision biasness which will cause common error. Meaning when you make decision, even identifying problem, creating alternative, right, you might not look at what is the correct factors or factors, but you look at what is available. So when this happen, right, somehow or other, it might distort your decision making or your decision to make sound decision. Okay, because it's already distorted, right? Okay, for representation, right, some decision maker, one another common error is that they will make decision which they feel is a representation, meaning something which it has occurred before. Okay, it has occurred before, and it seems to be like similar, meaning events that are similar or resemble an event that has happened before. So this is called representation biasness. Okay, sometimes I mean, it's just so-called a human nature. Sometimes we are like, hey, this event seems to be the same as the previous event. Let's use a decision which we have used before, like last time. Okay, so this is called a representation. So it can be an error as well, because like we talk about workforce change, workplace change, everything changes. Although it is similar, but due to external environment situation, it might be different. Okay. The next one we talk about is randomness bias. So this is when, well, decision tends to predict. Okay, they just randomly just find a meaning out of the random events. They don't really like somehow or other focus on finding whether this is a problem that, or a decision that can solve this problem. Okay. Okay, now sunk cost error is a more interesting error. Sunk cost error basically, like, it always happen when the decision maker, right, they keep wanting to use the current decision to correct the past mistake. Okay, so when this happen, right, they keep focusing on what has already been, like let's say money, time has already been spent. Okay, they cannot forget that what has been already done wrong, but focusing on them and using the sunk cost biasness to fix, using a decision to fix what that cannot be solved already. Okay. Okay, now the last second one is self-serving. Self-serving is a more individualistic way of error, and this will talk about decision maker, right, trying to take credit from their success, and they will just blame others for any issues or mistakes that has been done. Okay. Okay, the last one we talk about is hindsight. So hindsight is talking about decision maker will think that they have accurately predict the outcome. Okay, they will think that they have accurately predict the outcome. The event is actually known. All right. Okay, these are some common errors, and these are what you need to know about these. Any question? Any question? I'll give you a few minutes to maybe 1 or 2 minutes to just think about all these. Take a look. Any question, I will explain again. All right. No, you do not need to memorize this. Okay, don't worry about exam. So what I need you to do is just to understand some common errors, because this is not examinable, but it will be good if you understand the concept behind all these common errors so as not to make the mistakes in future decision making process. Okay, so far any question? If no question, then I'm going to move Okay, sorry for the short interruption. I think the connection was a bit slow. Okay, now let's continue with the next slide. So next, we are going to talk about the three approaches managers can use to make decision. So just let us take a look at the first one. Now, the first one is actually called rational decision making. Okay, so make a guess. What is rational decision making process? Anyone can try? Rational decision making process. Okay, let me just in short, right? Reasonable or pursuit of cost performance. Okay, what do you mean by cost performance? But actually, rational decision, the key word is they are basing on first logical, okay, the logical and I would say constant or consistent choices. And the main objective is to maximize value. Okay, so basically this is rationale model. Okay, however, this is not a very logical way of doing it because a lot of times, right, we might not have any consistent choice. Choices are always in a way it should be fully objective. And in rational model, right, it is said that the problem is supposed to be clear and ambiguous. But a lot of times, right, can we have problems that are totally clear? No. And can we have problems that are totally unambiguous? Okay, totally clear and unambiguous. And rational model also talk about needing to have clear and specific goals regarding decision. But a lot of times, right, can a goal be made that clear and specific? Okay, okay, this is not all, but another one is that for rational decision making, right, it always asks about if all possible alternative and consequences supposed to be known. However, it is usually not possible that alternative and consequences are ever been known. So that is the reason why rational decision making becomes something that is not a realistic approach. And of course, like what I mentioned earlier, it is also something that is related to selecting, maximize the likelihood of achieving the goals. However, can any of these alternative ever really do that? Okay, no as well. So therefore, these are the questions that is being critiqued based on rational decision making. Okay, and this has actually made rationality not a realistic approach. Okay, here I have a question from Mei Yun. Mei Yun asks, after the comparison to choose a comprehensive better, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by to choose a comprehensive better? Can you just rephrase your question so that I can answer to it? Right after the special contrast screening. What do you mean? What do you mean by special contrast screening? Okay, for this rational model, right, is basically a way how management will do decision making. It has nothing to do with the step process. For your information, this is another set of decision approach. So rationale model is like adopting, like making decision in this sense. I don't really get your question, so maybe you can rephrase it. Oh, you got it. Okay, great. Okay, now a more realistic approach which management has found to be in a way more an approach that is more suitable will be this we call bounded rationality. Okay, bounded rationality, right, basically talks about managers are still making rational decision, of course, but they are bounded by understanding their own ability and capabilities. Okay, meaning they still make sound decision, but they also have to understand their own limitations, as in like the things that they know and the information that they have. Can you know what I'm trying to say? So it's like they will make sure that the choice that is made is within what is their assumption and what fits the best of the approach to solve the problem. Okay, so they will rather accept solution that they feel that can solve the problem, and in comparison to rationale model whereby they spend time to find the best to make out of everything to maximize. Okay, question? Okay, no question, let's move on to the next, which is the intuition and managerial decision. Okay, take a while to look at this slide. Okay, if you read this slide, okay, I give you a few more seconds. Some of you have not finished reading. When you are done, just click a yes so that I can continue. Okay, have everybody finished? Okay, good. All right, so basically, right, intuitive decision making, right, if you understand from this passage itself, it is actually based on experience and feelings and somehow certain judgment that has been accumulated rather than factual things, meaning is like is more on the intuition and not really something which they have like do some um market research or things that are happening in the surrounding. It is just basically just very intuitive. It's just something that they feel that it will happen. Just like it's just like a art, this kind of thing. Alright. So this is basically intuition. This is the third approach. So the first one is rationale. The second one is bounded, and the last one is intuitive decision making. However, for intuitive decision making, right, these are the few, I would say, the use, like what is intuition. So if you look at this slide, right, it comes from some of these. Okay, it can be from your experience, okay, that you create this intuitive decision. It can be because something which you have done before, and the feeling and emotion, the affected initial decision, or it can be something which is based on what you already know. It can also be something that is behind your mind. Maybe some of you are just naturally born artists, or natural born uh, innovative person. Okay, so it can come from your subconscious mental processing. And of course, the final one, it can be based on who you are, how you're being brought up, certain values or ethics that can create certain intuitive decision making. Okay? All right. Okay, this one will not be tested as well. So don't worry about memorizing. Just need to understand how does intuitive decision making comes about. Okay? I'll give you some time to dwell on this, because this is the part whereby talking about approach, and we are going to start the next part on the types of decision. Okay. Okay, I tell you what, take a break here. We'll take a 20 minutes break, and I'll see you back. So take some time to look at this as well. Okay, I'll give a plus 5 minutes on this, and then you have a 20 minutes break. And then after, I'll see you back, and if you have question, let me know. Okay? Okay, see you shortly.